Welcome to Labor's View. This show is brought to you by the very hard-working and dedicated employees of the Essex County Division of Welfare. They are the non-managerial, non-supervisory employees of that agency. I'm David Weiner, president of the Local and host of this show, Labor's View. We're very happy to have with us today my brother in labor, Chris Tyminski, who's president of PBA Local 183, representing the, I know sheriff's officers, the line sheriff's officers, or do you have higher titles?
Sheriff's officers and detectives.
And detectives.
Yes.
How big a local?
Roughly 400 members.
Okay. And you've been doing this for how long?
I've been the local president now 16 years and the state delegate as well for the last year and a half.
Okay. I'll double your 16, and that's how long I've known.
God bless you.
Well, look at the difference between us. You're young and healthy. We're here to talk about a couple of field board meetings that have taken place and a particular resolution. And the resolution was to give a company known as Connor Strong Bookaloo, give them again the contract to basically administer the county's health benefit plan for its employees, right?
Correct.
And there was a meeting on 7/11, July 11th, 2012, where I went and did a presentation to ask a lot of questions. And either just as a result of that or because they had their own concerns, Fielder Board President Blondie Watson held up, there was no vote that day. And some very interesting things occurred, such as Connor Strong refused to answer 3 questions in the RFP dealing with their finances, which is unheard of. I've been watching this stuff for over 30 years. I've never heard of anything like that, and then get it approved. And a bunch of other issues. And one of the most interesting is all of a sudden injected into this request for proposal that was sent out that they responded to is not only for to administer health benefits for the employees and retirees, but to also have a company to administer voluntary health benefits like car insurance and stuff that, you know, the county's not involved. You go right between them.
Right.
And Connor Strong came up with this company called Winston Financial Services. And give me your view on this. And keep in mind that, well, you work in it. You tell the story about the state health benefit plan and what they could have done or should have done.
Well, I think it's easy to see. I think we look at it as a shell game with these companies coming in. Connor Strong, we all know the connections. George Norcross, as the executive chairman of Connor Strong and Bookaloo. His name is always connected with our local politicians, actually statewide politicians. And obviously you see the concerns with a company like this coming in with questions not answered. It's concerning. It's concerning when we're not looking at the real alternatives, and it's troubling. It's troubling when they're not as forthright and they're not as open and not as willing to negotiate and sit down and actually have input from the unions. That as of last year, now we should have a significant stake in it. Now that we're going to be paying upwards to 35% of the healthcare premiums. Here we are now looking at ways to save the taxpayers and the employees. Actually, we're going to put an additional financial burden on them by bringing in an additional expense that's certainly not even necessary.
Almost $700,000 just for Connor Strong for 3 years.
And that's what we know of.
That's what we know of, exactly.
And again, that gets into what are we doing? We're not looking at other options. The state health benefits plan, which several other counties already have entertained, actually have gone that route. And they talk about the expertise within our own department. That's why our HR department can't answer certain questions. That's why they rely on a company like Connor Strong. Well, there's no need to have a 30-member HR department if it's a state-run plan. We will have liaisons. We won't need a Connor Strong. And again, the savings passed on to the taxpayers, as well as our members that are hit over the head the last couple of years.
Let's be clear on that, because what happened was we were paying, all of us, we're paying all government employees in New Jersey, right? 1.5% of our respective salaries. So if you're making 60 G's, as our top end members make, a little bit more than that, but in that area, they're paying about $800 a year.
Right.
With this thing, they're going to top out, and there's no win in sight because you still get increases from the insurance company
Absolutely.
each year. Okay, but this is just the legislation is going to take it up to about $6,000–7,000. That's a 10% decrease in your salary.
Yeah, it's going to be crippling to a lot of families. That's why when they say that it's going to be difficult for us to get unions on board, well, how do you know?
Didn't ask us.
You didn't ask us, and it's very easy. And Dave, we've been around a long time. They call for labor roundtable meetings. We're there, no matter every day. You have 100% participation most of the time. So just come in and ask a simple question. This is supposed to be a broker that's doing a job for the county, doing a job for the citizens of the county. Your job is to bring the best package to our members, and that hasn't been happening. So you have to question what's the motivation for doing this. If we have a state health benefits plan, do we need a broker? If you don't have a broker, then who's not getting paid in this and who's not making the money?
Well, obviously, if in the state health benefits you don't have a broker, and Norcross, we got to say, George Norcross is a big power broker. Holds no political position, but he controls. It's said to control South Jersey politics
And the media.
and the media. He just bought the Inquirer.
Yes.
He and a group of rich guys, other rich guys, and his brother Donald is a state senator now. Steve Sweeney, the Senate president, is his guy, so to speak. He brought him up, and then they have their, I call it the unholy trinity, in Essex County with Steve Adelbado Sr., the power broker here, the equivalent of Norcross. Only Steve does a nonprofit business with the North Ward Center, and he's got Joe D., the county executive, and then Joe D.'s got what's her name, the assembly speaker. I'm blanking because of my exhaustion, but you know who I'm talking about. Sheila Oliver. And you got Teresa Ruiz, who works for him. Oliver works for Joe D. They both work for the administration. So and with the governor, everything's in a nice little packet, except for the taxpayers. I've said this so many times. Joe worries so much about the zoo, and the golf courses and the parks, and he pays no attention to poverty issues, which is why the state now is insisting on an organization that I'm part of, meeting tomorrow, to review the division of welfare, because there's so many problems with staffing and servicing people, and 1 out of 5 people in this county is on welfare of some sort, gets a service from the division of welfare.
Right.
1 out of 5. That's an amazing thing. It's funny. One of the questions I asked on the 11th was, it states within the resolution, the county asks CSB to respond to this. Whether your firm or any principal of your firm have been in the past 5 years or are currently the subject of any federal or state investigation. And Connor Strong says no. Matthew Boxer, the controller for the state, who's the watchdog of the state, has done several reports recently. And when I asked in here, where Connor Strong says they haven't been, technically they may be right. They haven't been the subject, and that's a technical, as you know. That's a technical term. So maybe but they may not have been the subject, but in this article it says that Connor Strong made $455,000 for merely referring another company to get the business from the Delaware Authority. And who didn't, in the article, the company says, we didn't ask for it, we didn't even know we were getting it. So in turn for getting the business, they give him $500,000. So it is a very interesting situation. How do your members feel about this?
Well, again, it's a difficult job now with trying to educate your members on what's going on around us. You get to a point where you're so beaten up, it's almost like you accept what's ever happening to you. In a case like this, you ask a simple question: are you the subject of an investigation? Or it's almost like you have to play the game with them to get the answers. Was somebody you're doing business with questioned, and your name happened to pop up in an article?
Right.
I mean, it's like, where do you start? Because they're becoming more and more educated and in the ways they do business. And it's hard for us to explain to our members, like, this is the real problem. First off, it's a dry subject, but real simple. guys, if you're bringing home, I use a rough figure, 50,000, starting tomorrow you're going to bring home 42. That gets their attention.
Yeah.
And that's where
and their
these,
wife's attention.
Absolutely. And that's where, unfortunately, businesses like ours, our profession, stay in business. You know, you work for a welfare client base. I work in, unfortunately, a criminal base. And we're, our professions are going to be there forever as long as we have politics in play. This is a pure example of that. The rich are getting richer, and those of us who are not as fortunate, we're going to sit here and try being the watchdog for everybody.
Well, this Winston that was very interesting. I don't believe I went all the way with this one, but the person from Connor Strong that was there on the 11th, they were asked, why is the Winston contract and the Connor Strong, why aren't they separate contracts for us to vote upon? And the answer was, well, that's the way the RFP went out. Well, then who created the RFP? But okay. So then, for some reason, the woman admits that the county didn't want Winston. They told them before they came to the meeting, before that resolution was submitted for a vote, they didn't want Winston for some kind of reason of unsatisfaction with them in some degree. So Connor Strong says, we anticipate looking for another one. Meanwhile, Senator Rice and I are looking at each other, then why is it in this contract? Because what happens is, we found out at the next meeting, the one on the 19th, you were there, we found out there that when they do change them, the fielders are going to have nothing to say about it. They can pick anybody they want to be that vendor, and they have nothing to say about it. And of course, Connor Strong is going to get a piece of that action. That's already been determined.
Absolutely.
And I mentioned to you today, at the 11th, the field board meeting on the 11th, there were 5 other insurance contracts on there, like for automobile and insurance for the hospital, all brokered by Connor Strong, and that's money in addition to the.
Of course.
And I'm not, as I said at the end of the 19th meeting, I'm not questioning the quality of the company. They actually, when we've asked them to come out to membership meetings, they've been there. When we do have issues, Aaron Abramowitz, the head of HR for the county, is great, in finding things out. He goes through them. It's not a qualitative aspect. It's whether or not the county of Essex and our members can afford to have this antiquated model. And in fact, Connor Strong doesn't even get paid that 600 and something thousand I told you for the contract. That doesn't get paid by the county. It gets paid by the insurance broker that they bring in, which is this case Aetna for the last couple of years, right? So I'm not saying anything was untoward, but if I'm this Connor Strong and I'm going to pick an insurance broker, who am I going to pick? The one that benefits my bottom line or the one that benefits the county? I'm not questioning their veracity, but that could be a question that would come to mind.
Well, you have no option but to question what their mindset is of these companies. The process is convoluted at best, and the need for it, you question what the need is for it. If there are other options out there that make sense for us, how do you not explore them? We've been talking about this for years. And maybe our members do turn around and say, you know what, the state health benefits plan, that's not what we want to do here. We don't think it's in the best interest of us. But how do you know, unless you exhaust those options? Here we're dumping, at this point, it's millions of dollars to companies such as this. And again, we talk about guys like Alan Abramowitz. He's probably one of the most qualified, decent people that we have in the county.
Absolutely.
Here. And we're very fortunate to have him here. But again, we don't question the individuals on it. We question this practice. Like, why are we doing business like this? Makes no sense, especially when you start bringing in, they're actually controlling other vendors at this point. When you have these subsidiary companies coming in that are basically reporting to Connor Strong, where's their loyalty going to be? Where's the product that they're delivering? Is it really the best product?
What's the product that they'll sell to our people?
And that's just it. And that's where it becomes troubling. Who are they really here for at the end of the day?
Exactly.
Are we getting the best product? And ultimately, we don't know.
And the field has abdicated all their interest. Now, Matthew Boxer, the controller, this is all off a study that he did back in February. Well, he released it in February. And it was a cost analysis, selected government units joining the health benefit plan. He picked 4 counties, or 4 entities. It could have been some cities and counties combined. Right. Essex was one of them. And he said that if Essex had been in the state plan, In 2009 and 2010, they would have saved almost $5 million each year, okay? And that's $1,000 a head for each employee, which means that's less than we have to pay, right? Because we're now paying a percentage of the actual cost as opposed to a percentage of our salaries. And he even said in response to the county's response to his report, he said, while Appendix A to Essex County's response compares the plan, it does not show the associated costs. There's no talk about costs. There's no talk about financial reports. Everything's done, well, you know, as they want to. So what did I do? They wouldn't give me the information on Winston, so I filed a GRC complaint. It's Government Records Council, because they said it was too broad, too vague. So I rewrote it, okay, on July 16th and gave them greater specificity, particularly that thing about them wanting to change Winston, and still I got another one, denial. So that's actually when I did the complaint. And then you and I were on the 19th of July. We were there, and we're watching this go down, and the answers were not really provided in any clear way. And what it came down was that two of them were missing that night, right? Payne and Felice, what's his name? Luciano were not there that night, freeholders. But it ended up being voted for 7-0 unanimously. Even with the freeholders had been seriously questioning it, went along with it anyway. I was a little disappointed.
Well, I as well. I expected it to probably go 5-2, 4-3. But you see some of the political influence that's in attendance that maybe sways the vote a little bit more in that direction. It's disappointing to see that, but that's the realities of what happened there. Clearly, this is a problem. I think anybody that was in attendance there that didn't have a vested interest in this particular issue, seeing what was taking place there and hearing us speak, and with this very issue, and just see it just pass through as a normal course of business, that should be so disheartening to the public. Like, and the sad part is more people should be alarmed, more people should be educated on what goes on there, but that's government business, and we're so used to it anymore.
Well, there were articles in the paper. There was one in the Star-Ledger saying there was going to be a vote that night. There was a couple of them, I think. Actually, one didn't actually make the paper. It just was online. But finally, the one that did says Essex County's, here's the other one. Essex freeholders unanimously okay brokerage contract. And this one has, this other article had Senator Rice in there saying, you know, he says, I've always had concerns about the integrity of this process as well as the integrity of Mr. Norcross. I've made no secret of that. So Ron was there actually for the meeting, keeping up on this stuff. So what do I do now? What do we do? And when we were discussing things beforehand, I did an OPRA, Open Public Records Act request on the 23rd, no, before the 23rd, on the 16th, the day, a couple days after the vote. And I asked for the 7 other answers to the request for proposals for the companies that weren't chosen. Connor Strong was chosen. There were 7 others, even though Connor Strong said nobody else was interested. But there were 7 others. And they're ready. They're at the Hall of Records for me. So when I get done sometime today, I'm going to go over and pick that up. And it's going to be very interesting. If those companies answered all the questions that Connor Strong didn't answer, somebody's going to have to answer for that.
Well, I am sure that there's some other qualified companies that are interested in that. The problem with, I guess the big scheme of all of this, the big problem with all of this is nobody's taking a proper approach towards true healthcare reform. There is no true wellness program for our members. And in the past, we've discussed it openly in a meeting, doing several things. Simple things such as, I mean, Joe gets grant money. Joe, the county executive, Joe DiVincenzo, prides himself on all of his projects throughout the county. And again, you go to the Turtleback Zoo. You have animals that are treated better than most of the employees here in their surroundings. Why not take care of your most important resource in this county. People that keep it going, your employees, and build a fitness facility for the county employees, have a true wellness program, and educating people on better health. And it doesn't have to be money with your employees. And we've talked about several private companies that have offered incentive programs to have a healthier workforce. Those are the things that drive down healthcare costs. Those are the things that actually work. And until we take a proper step in that direction, the bills are just going to continue to increase as the stressors on our members continue to take control of a lot of our lives. People are working 2 jobs now, 2, 3 jobs in some points, just to pay for the basic necessities now. And even that's not doing it. And when you have companies like this that come in that are creating a greater financial burden on our members, that's where we have an obligation to step up and say something, as we have, and we've been very vocal on this issue. But it's disheartening when we're going to be the blame next year, as you know, maybe at the end of this year when we have another labor roundtable meeting regarding health benefits. The finger's going to be pointed at us as the union leaders, as the ones that aren't doing our part to make these things better, and we're not supporting a system that's supporting the public's desire to get a grasp on the financial hit that.
Well, if he starts pointing his finger at me, I remember at least 6 years ago going with the then CEO of the Newark Y, whose board I've been on forever, and he and I developed a wellness program proposal where we sat down with Phil Laja, the chief of staff, and a couple other people, of Joe D's people, and we said, we got 3 Ys. We got Montclair, Orange, and Newark, and where they're willing to have a ridiculously low-priced product and offer it to the county, figuring to do it on volume, and try it for a wellness program to do exactly what you're saying, to reduce the obesity, the smoking, and all the other things that lead to the illnesses that end up people going to the doctor and to the hospital and costing the county all this money, and the taxpayers, and us, since we're paying it.
Sure.
Nothing. They had, a contest with the mayor this past year, I think, losing weight. You know what's interesting? They never told you who won the contest. It's interesting, because I like Corey, but Corey looks a little chunky lately. Maybe he's got to go save some more people.
Maybe the cape tucked behind his shirt.
Yeah, that's what it made it. The cape makes it fills them out. But we got to keep this stuff up, because you're right. It's our responsibility, our primary responsibility, respectively, is to protect our members, and we do it in a collective way when we work like this together.
Absolutely.
And we've discussed other institutions of labor that we wish were, more vibrant or moving at all, and and perhaps we could look in that direction. But until this happens, this type of stuff is going to happen over and over and over again. And that zoo, Channel 5, I don't know if you know this, Channel 5 called me, Fox News, which I never watch unless I want to yell at somebody. I don't even watch that one. I watch the main one.
Right.
The O'Reilly stuff. I read on, I scream at it, and I go back to MSNBC. But they called me and said, we want to do an article about the zoo. I said, okay. She said, but our Oprah requests are getting denied like crazy. So I said, I have a bunch of information about the zoo, because I've been writing articles since 2008 about the $2 million they spent on 2 Gibbons apes. Here's a perfect example. 2 Gibbons apes, and she showed them, they're playing a little playground. I did a lot of research on this. The male ape, they got, they paid for, and they got it from Waco, Texas Zoo. He was a young male, but they said in order to get him, he's got to mate with the female, and we get the product. And this county signed a deal. Then they get the old female is given to them, and she's from Ohio. Well, she's a geriatric female. She wants nothing to do with this young ape. In fact, she was so old, the day they had the grand opening, they had to build her a ramp, because she couldn't climb up to the things. So, this is the kind of stuff that they're spending $2 million on. Yet, Essex County, by Joe D's own admission, during the interview with this woman, this reporter, he says, when I came into office 10 years ago as county executive, because he'd been field board president, as you know, before that.
Absolutely.
And he says, when I came in, Essex County had the highest taxes, the highest foreclosures, and the highest crime rate. And he says, well, guess what? They still do. I'm going, that's a good thing? What are you talking about? You know, but his thing is that he thinks he's bringing tax ratables and that they're making money, and this reporter questioned it. I mean, the McClune's restaurant, that was a done deal.
Absolutely.
We showed that. I mean, they even, to avoid having to go out to bid on it, they sold the then unbuilt and unapproved boathouse. It didn't exist. The county sold it to the Essex County Improvement Authority, who in turn leased it to McClune. So therefore, and the county's on the hook for, I think, $9 million that you're going to have to pay off. Then you got the little golf course, the putt-putt. All these things are nice. And I've said millions of times, Joe D. is the best project manager I've ever seen. You've been around a long time.
Absolutely, I agree.
I've never seen anybody get something, and I've been here since Shapiro, the first one, and I saw 2 of them go to jail. But I've never seen anybody get a project done on time, on schedule. He's an ogre, I hear. I mean, he really, you know, a taskmaster, but he gets the job done. But there's no interest in crime or social services. None. No time spent on it.
Dave, I pull in the lot, the county lot in front of the court complex every morning, roughly 10 to 6, and I see a golf cart type vehicle going around watering the potted plants every morning. And there's more care paid to those plants and the surrounding mulch and everything else in the area than our own employees. And I said it to Joe's face that if you spent 1/10 of your time taking care of your county employees the way you do your infrastructure, this would be the greatest place in the world to be. I mean, he does a tremendous job on a lot of the projects throughout the county parks, golf courses, and people do utilize those things, and people see that. And I can appreciate that myself. I utilize the services. I appreciate that. But I also see, like, the people that make these things work, the people that protect the parks. I mean, it's great to go to the park and, you know, play soccer with your kid, but it's even better to know that you have law enforcement officers within an arm's reach if something takes place. It's not a good combination having people out of work and doing things out of character just to get through the day. And there's no need for it. We're not asking for ridiculous amounts of money. We're just looking to be treated like human beings. And some of these cases that are just so over the top, you question, what are the motivations to it? Do our employees, do our members, do they matter? That's the disheartening part. But Joe, I know he has the ability to make change here in Essex County with the workforce. And as you know, we're 2 of the more vocal people and to criticize him, but we're also one of the first guys to step up and compliment him for doing the good things.
I like the guy. I get in trouble with my own members because I tell them I like him personally. I always have. I don't like the stuff he's done politically in conjunction with Christie, but on a personal level, I consider ourselves to be friends. But this is business, and this is a business not only of our members, but of the people out there where 1 out of 5 is living in poverty to the extent that they've got to be clients of divisional welfare, and I don't know what percentage end up going through the sheriff's system, you know, the legal court system where you guys preside. So all I can say is we're going to keep it up. We'll keep up the pressure, and I thank you very much, Chris, for being on Labor's View with us, and we hope to have you on future shows as well with us. Thank you. I'm David Weiner. Good night.
I have a voice. My union speaks for me. I can be sure